Hello fans and friends, welcome to another video. My name's Keir Smith. For today's video, I'm going to talk you through 10 perfect records. This video is part of a thread started by Damontalksrecords, a newcomer to YouTube, so be sure to check out his video on his channel. And his list was a varied and interesting one, and after watching his video, I added a couple of his picks to my never-ending albums I want list. I actually saw Mike's video first on his channel, MGK Boston, and he made some really cool picks too, so I thought I'd join the thread. So these are my picks, what I consider to be 10 perfect albums, and they're all big hitters. I'm sure most of you will know most of them, and if not, well, I highly recommend them. These are amazing albums that I've loved for so long, and I think that anything your music loving ears may desire could well be found across these albums. I've got 6 albums to show you on CD and 4 on vinyl, and these are in no particular order, although I will save my personal favourite until last. So 10 perfect albums, here we go. I'll start with this. David Bowie, Station to Station from 1976. This is an incredible album. Bowie mixes things up with various musical styles like funk rock, disco and soul. 6 tracks, all killer, no filler. The 10-minute plus epic title track kicks us off from its marching intro before morphing into a disco inspired groove. It's a really ambitious piece, a great opener. It shifts gears and it never feels like 10 minutes when you're listening to it. Golden Years was a snappy, catchy hit single, and Word on a Wing is a really tender and beautiful ballad with Bowie in fine voice. TBC15 is up-tempo, really catchy and great fun, and the song Stay is a sizzling band performance. George Murray on bass, Dennis Davis on drums, Carlos Alomar and Earl Slick on guitars, and David Bowie gives one hell of a vocal performance here. I love Bowie's falsetto on this track. And lastly, an inspired cover version of Wild is the Wind with another hugely impressive vocal performance from Bowie. It's a beautiful and romantic song, and Bowie's vocal here is absolutely sublime. So good, it makes me shiver. There's not a dull moment on this album. David Bowie, Station to Station. Up next is an album that Mike at MGK Boston picked on his list, and it's easy to see why. This is Bob Dylan, Blood on the Tracks from 1975. And this is a special Millennium Edition CD. I've got the standard CD, of course, and when an album's this good, there's no harm in having multiple copies, although I really would like it on vinyl too. This is a very personal and revealing album. Dylan's hurt from the breakup with his wife Sarah pours out into these magnificent songs. These are great story songs, and Dylan's lyrics here are among his very best. And I think Dylan's in fine voice on these songs. Simple Twist of Fate, The Scathing Idiot Wind, You're a Big Girl Now is beautiful, You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Go is great. Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts is incredible, one of the best story songs ever, and my personal favourite from the album. If You See Her Say Hello is gorgeous, and I love that picked guitar style on the closing track, Buckets of Rain. Brilliant. Shelter from the Storm, Tangled Up in Blue. Just amazing songs. The quality of songwriting on this album is so high, and it never lets up from start to finish. I adore this album, Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. Up next is a vinyl copy of what I consider to be an absolute masterpiece. This is Close to the Edge by Yes from 1972. This is an incredible, ambitious, soaring, powerful and emotive album. It opens with the sidelong 4-part title track, Epic with a capital E. It takes you on a long journey through so many musical ideas and styles with the most stunning instrumentation, a band at the peak of their powers. Bill Bruford is one of the great rock jazz drummers, Chris Squire's crunching bass lines, and Steve Howe's wizardry on guitar is superb throughout. Rick Wakeman is prog's greatest keyboard player, and John Anderson's ethereal vocals are so beautiful. On side 2 you've got And You and I, which is another 10-minute plus beautiful piece of music. In particular, I love Rick Wakeman's gliding keyboard passages here and his use of the Mini Moog synthesizer. But each member plays famously again here, but this is a more subtle mini epic. And lastly, you've got Siberian Catru, which is an all-out funk rock stomper. Steve Howe's guitar playing on this track is absolutely amazing. It blows me away every time. And I love those barbaric chants at the end before the band play out in serious style. There's so much going on this album and so much to love. I never get bored of hearing it. Close to the Edge by Yes. Up next is Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here from 1975. It's not my favourite Pink Floyd album, but I think it's their most perfect. There's not a wasted note. Shine On You Crazy Diamond, both parts that bookend the album, it's absolutely glorious. Richard Wright's keyboards really set the mood, and David Gilmour's perfect crystalline guitar sound is sensational throughout. And Roger Waters' lyrics are absolutely brilliant, and it's about Sid. It's all the best bits of Pink Floyd coming together perfectly. And I love that grinding mechanical sound on Welcome to the Machine and Roger's scathing lyrics. Have a Cigar is fantastic, a harder edged rock song with a great guest vocal from Roy Harper. And again, Roger's lyrics are fantastic here as he takes a pop at the music industry and the faceless record executive bigwigs. And the title track is a beautiful song, an all-time classic featuring more great guitar playing from Gilmour and a really good vocal too. Amazing album, absolute perfection. Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. Okay, we'll come out of the 70s now and move into the 80s with this, the biggest selling album of all time, Thriller by Michael Jackson from 1982. There's a damn good reason why this album has sold as many copies as it has. It's absolutely brilliant. It opens with Wanna Be Starting Something, which is a disco dance floor classic. It pops with energy and excitement. You've got The Girl Is Mine, a bit of a cheesy duet with Paul McCartney, but I absolutely love it. You've got the gory title track, which is a brilliant song with a brilliant bass line. Beat It has always been the standout track on this album for me. I think it's one of the best rock songs ever recorded, with an amazing guitar solo from the late great Eddie Van Halen. Billie Jean, an all-time classic, one of Michael's most popular songs, and then you've got the subtle beauty, the gorgeous Human Nature. Baby Be Mine is a standout track, the hidden gem on the album, and the album closes with the subtle romanticism of The Lady in My Life, which, after all of Michael's vocal gymnastics, is a really smooth and soothing way to close this perfect album. You can't beat it, no pun intended. Michael Jackson, Thriller. Up next, we're going back to the 60s for the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds from 1966. This was such an ambitious album. Brian Wilson really reached for the stars here. He worked tirelessly on the song arrangements, the orchestration, and the lyrics. And the results are absolutely stunning. And as a result, Pet Sounds is rightfully regarded as one of the most pioneering albums ever made. It's an album filled with rich instrumentation, great melodies, sweet vocals and harmonies throughout, real beauty. Wouldn't It Be Nice is one of the great album openers. Don't Talk, Put Your Head on My Shoulder is too beautiful for me to put into words. And I must say, I really like the two instrumental tracks on the album, Let's Go Away for a While and the title track. They're very different, but in particular, the title track is fantastic. I really love the lyrics too, I Just Wasn't Made for These Times, and Caroline No is one of the great album closers of all time. And I've grown to love the cover version of Sloop John B through the years, and God Only Knows, an all-time classic, a truly great song. You Still Believe in Me, I Know There's an Answer, both fine songs. Again, the standard is set so high here, and the album is very well sequenced, it flows wonderfully. Heavenly music, the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds. Up next is another album that sold huge amounts. This is Hotel California by the Eagles from 1976. The Eagles are well known for their perfectionist approach, so it's no surprise they made this perfect record. The album opens with the superb title track, an all-time rock classic, and I didn't grow up with this album, so when I listen to that track, it still sounds fresh to me. I love Don Henley's voice, I think the lyrics are fantastic, and the guitar interplay between Don Felder and Joe Walsh is sublime. And that guitar solo at the end, it erupts, it's so good. But my favourite song on the album is the next track, New Kid in Town, a laid-back, radio-friendly, adult-oriented rock song. But it has this subtle quality and dynamic instrumentation. I love Glenn Frey's vocal, and it's a really good story song. And the harmonies are perfect. It's a wonderful song. Life in the Fast Lane picks up the pace with a great riff, great lyrics, love that song. And the lush orchestral beauty of Wasted Time, beautifully penned and sung by Don Henley. And the reprise of Wasted Time that opens side 2, stunning, takes my breath away. Randy Meisner's Try and Love Again and Joe Walsh's Pretty Maids All in a Row are both really beautiful songs with great instrumentation. Victim of Love adds a bit of bite to the record with its crunching chords and solid drums. And the closing track, The Last Resort, is an absolute beauty, another great album closer. This is so good lyrically. Don Henley takes a look at America and bemoans the fact that it's losing its heritage in the name of greed and power. I love everything about it. Great album cover, great band, great songs, great lyrical detail, stunning performances. Hotel California by the Eagles. We go into the 90s for the next album. This is Achtung Baby by U2 from 1991. The album was started in Germany and it was finished in Dublin. And in between, U2 argued a lot over their musical direction, but out of those quarrels came this masterpiece. And I love this album because U2 really branched out musically here. It was completely different to everything we'd come to expect from U2 before. It had a harder rock edge to it, but it had dance grooves and rhythms too, and it just swaggers with real confidence. I love the Edge's guitar playing on this album. It's both daring and exciting, and he takes the guitar to places that he'd never been before. That cool, chugging, descending riff on Even Better Than the Real Thing, and that squalling guitar solo on The Fly. Bono sounds at his most earnest on The Beautiful One. Bono's vocals throughout this album are absolutely brilliant, especially on songs like Acrobat and Ultraviolet, and Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses, my personal favourite from the album. And his lyrics too on songs like So Cruel and the icy, atmospheric closer, Love Is Blindness, are truly great. You've got subtle gems like Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World. I love Larry Mullen's drum sound on this album, especially on the opener, Zoo Station, and the album is expertly produced by Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno. It is without doubt U2's most ambitious and daring album. It's one of them moments in time where everything comes together perfectly and unites to make a great body of work. And it's certified U2's place as one of the biggest bands in the world. It's a remarkable album. I love it dearly. U2, Achtung Baby. Up next is The Queen is Dead by The Smiths from 1986. For me, The Smiths are the most underrated band in the history of music, and The Queen is Dead is definitely their artistic triumph. Morrissey's clever and witty lyrics meet Johnny Marr's magical melodies on guitar, backed ably by Mike Joyce on drums and Andy Rourke on bass. The band unite here to make an incredible body of work that, at least me and my friends, pore over to this day. I'll admit, Morrissey can be a bit depressing, but he's also hilarious, as shown in songs like Vicar and a Tutu, Cemetery Gates, and Frankly Mr. Shankly. But he writes the most beautiful and affecting lyrics in songs like I Know It's Over and the classic There Is a Light That Never Goes Out. And I love that jangly guitar sound on The Boy with the Thorn in His Side, and lyrically it's so profound. The moody atmosphere on Never Had No One Ever sends shivers down my spine, and that lilting melody on the closing track, Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others, is one of the most beautiful guitar pieces ever written. The title track is a storming opener with great wah-wah guitar from Johnny Marr that hits hard. As does Big Mouth Strikes Again with more funny lyrics from Morrissey. Every song is brilliant with really tight band performances led by the wonderful vocals of Morrissey. 10 tracks, absolutely brilliant. The band on top form, The Queen Is Dead by the Smiths. And lastly, we have the most perfect of perfect albums. This is Abbey Road by the Beatles from 1969. I always say that this is the Beatles at their most stylish. It's a magical record. And to think that this was the last album that the band recorded together. Imagine what the follow-up might have sounded like. Paul's melodies on this album are outrageously good, and George came up with what was considered to be at the time his two best songs with Here Comes the Sun and Something. Something is a gorgeous ballad, and Here Comes the Sun is as bright as the title suggests. Ringo, with a little help from George, came up with the excellent Octopus's Garden. I love that song, especially George's guitar solo. And John was still coming up with really cool grooves like Come Together and I Want You, She's So Heavy. Maxwell's Silver Hammer is one of those jaunty McCartney melodies that I absolutely love, and the song Because, with those 3-part harmonies, absolutely gorgeous. Oh Darling is a fine song with what is considered one of McCartney's best vocal performances. You Never Give Me Your Money, my personal favourite Beatles song. It's a melodic masterpiece. The piano playing, Paul's mournful vocal, George's great guitar parts, and Ringo's drum fills. I just love the way that the song shifts, the tempo changes. It really is the most stunning of McCartney compositions. And the Beatles really turn on the style in the medley. These short, fragmented pop songs are pieced together to make the most stunning suite of music. They sound so fresh and exciting all over again. I always think that the medley is the Beatles showing off. It's as if they're saying, look, we haven't done this yet. Isn't it good? And it just so happens to be the best thing they've ever done. I love the fast pace of Polythene Pam and the beauty of Golden Slumbers. And the grand finale, the end, John, Paul and George all playing stylish guitar parts, and we even get a rare drum solo from Ringo. And it all finishes with the most profound lyric, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And even the bonus snippet of Her Majesty is casually brilliant. All 4 members of the Beatles were still bringing something new to the table on Abbey Road, and all 4 members contribute famously to it. The performances are absolutely fantastic, so tight-knit and expertly produced, as always, by George Martin. It's an astounding body of work. As I say, the most perfect of perfect albums. I think it's their best album, can't you tell? The Beatles, Abbey Road. So there you go. They were my 10 perfect records. I hope you enjoyed the list. Thanks again to Damontalksrecords for this excellent video thread idea. And thanks to everyone who watched this video. Please give it the thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel. There'll be lots more to come. See you next time.